Billy Hawkins with EMS Software. Just wanted to give you a quick recording on our integration philosophy surrounding video conferencing, in your case, WebEx. So as you can see on the chart here, what we're really looking at for the workflow is that at some point in step one, your employee will try to create a meeting with a WebEx invite and a room. So obviously our goal here is to get a room and to have a WebEx associated meeting to that. Now, in a perfect world, in the best of circumstances, they would choose a room that they know to be WebEx enabled because they would want to use that piece of equipment in their room. But for the purpose of EMS, it's absolutely not necessary for that to be the case. You can, of course, create a WebEx meeting without a physical piece of equipment in a room using your laptop or whatever, or you can choose a room that happens to have a piece of equipment to enable that one-touch connection feeling or service. So in this example, we're going to go over a couple of different ideas surrounding that. First and foremost is the ability to create your reservation in any access point that EMS provides, which is the Outlook Room add-in, the EMS Web Access Portal, and of course, because we are dealing with Outlook or the web app, we may have to change the vibe in which the WebEx gets added. It could be done via the add-in that you're familiar with today, or it could be done via the triggers for the personal meeting rooms, the Teams meeting, or the actual WebEx meeting itself. In this slide, you'll notice that step 2, or the second area of this slide, indicates the room integration components that EMS will use in order to communicate back and forth. ERI, or Exchange Room Integration, is the process by which we will silently invite the resource mailbox from Exchange when a room that qualifies for that piece of equipment is invited. For example, if you have a WebEx device in conference room A, when a user selects conference room A during the reservation process, we will silently invite that room equipment mailbox in Exchange as well. EI, or Exchange Integration, is the module within EMS that provides free busy information to our interfaces, both the add-in as well as the web application, shown or illustrated in step 3, which is after a room has been selected, the attendee information is qualified by free busy available messaging. We communicate with Exchange Integration, we auto invite the room, and depending on the method in which we're creating our meeting, the WebEx information becomes available. What we'll do today is we'll go through the first use case example, which is the 2 Outlook add-in approach. In the first approach, we talk about using both add-ins in order to combine the process of creating a meeting reservation. We select a new meeting. We will add our attendees. We will choose a room from the EMS icon, which is the room selector, and we will choose the WebEx Add a Meeting button in order to add that meeting information into the Outlook body of the message and the location bar. That information, of course, is managed by WebEx, but keep in mind, this can be done in any order you choose. I don't have to add the attendees first, I don't have to choose the room first, and I don't have to choose the WebEx meeting first. I can pretty much do them in any order I choose in order to make that process seamless for the user. The experience that will result from using this method is they will understand that without their own awareness of what's going on, the Exchange room mailbox or the Cisco WebEx mailbox that's associated with the equipment in that room will be added using ERI. The WebEx meeting will update to the body of the message as you already are familiar with how the plugin works today, and the in-room device will subsequently see that information because it will be made available in the appointment subject body area, and it will also be invited to that appointment, so it will have direct access to all facets of that meeting. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and switch over into my Outlook view, and we'll go ahead and see what that looks like. So in Outlook, what I'll do is I will create a meeting. Let's go to the 29th here. will create a meeting for me outside business hours so that I'm not disturbing any of our actual appointments, and I'll create a meeting request. This meeting request will work the same as any other meeting does in your organization. I can do it in any order. So for this, I will go ahead and invite Matt and Logan to my meeting. I will let them know that this is a test meeting, and so that they can ignore the invite that they're going to get. And at this point, I can make a choice as a user. I can decide to start a virtual meeting now, right here, by adding a WebEx, and then pick my room later. Or I could pick my room now and choose to add the WebEx later. But in this case, I'm going to do both. So I'll add the WebEx meeting first, which this is my trial version of the Cisco WebEx. So it will add that information here. And then I will go to my EMS room manager to choose a room or a space. Now this is going to quantify all that information for me here. I can see my free busy information for Matt and Logan. It does look like Logan is out of the office or busy during this time. I can't really see what that means. And then I choose a room that I want to conduct my meeting in. In this case, I'll choose Pikes Peak as my location, and I'll let the system know that I'm going to have approximately 5 people joining my meeting. Now, this will tentatively block off that area, and if I have nothing else to do, I can simply send this meeting off. Now, I'm going to click send here on 5/1 at 5 p.m. so that I can see what that looks like in my calendar. WebEx will update its meeting details as you click send, and what you'll see now is that I have the Pikes Peak conference room. If I open that, it has invisibly invited that piece of equipment that's in the room, which here at our office we use Surface Hubs, but this would be whatever equipment is used in your organization. And you'll see that the WebEx information has been added to the body of the message in the same way the plugin would normally add that information. EMS also does put its own reference ID in here, but that is not required for the organization to support this type of meeting. It just comes in as part of the demonstration to illustrate that we did touch the meeting appointment. With all said and done, this particular button, this link here, and these phone credentials, this SID or the dial number, is what the one-touch dial needs in the body of the message in order to support one touch to start dialing or one touch connections. So that is the first example that we talk about when we refer to the two-step or two plugin process. Take a look at the next example, the One Outlook add-in example. Now, with this example, what we would do is we would provide the ability to use the Outlook add-in for EMS without the WebEx meeting example in play. So we would not use the Outlook Cisco WebEx add-in in this example. What we would do instead is we would create a meeting with attendees. We would choose a room from the EMS icon as we did before. And what will happen subtitiously or superficially is the idea of Exchange resource being added in the background. EMS will inject the @WebEx or @Meet into the body of the message, and then the WebEx listener would update the appointment. And this is something that's done by recognizing the @WebEx or the @Meet when they click send and updating that. Now, I do not have that level of access within my plugin or my add-in or my trial license within WebEx to do that, but I can give you an idea of what it would look like. Essentially, when we create a new meeting within the tool in the same way we did before, the system, instead of just putting Denver Pikes Peak conference room here, we would also put the @Meet at the end of it. And let's get this stuff out of here right here. When we provide that functionality into the tool, the WebEx listener who's watching that particular room would then translate that @Meet into the full-blown URL and information in the body of this message. Again, I don't personally have this portion in the trial version of WebEx that we were able to obtain for the purpose of this demo. However, you should be able to replicate this manually. What does happen though in EMS though is we append this to the room name so that it shows up in the location bar when a room is selected that does have that enabled capability, and it performs the same functionality as the WebEx button would if that were not installed or if you were using a system that doesn't support it, such as Outlook Web Access. Let's go back to the third example here. In our third example, we're talking about the web listener as well. So in the same idea as the Outlook plugin example 2, we would create a meeting with attendees. We would choose the room from the EMS selector. We would also get free busy information from them, as well as the room selector choice. And then just as before, without the user being aware of anything happening, the exchange resource would be added. We would inject the WebEx or the meeting info into the body of the message. The web listener would be updated with the appointment, and the in-room device would still see that information. Now let's get into the book here so I can see my online version of the web application. It may ask me to log in because I've been talking quite a bit. There we go. So in here, we have the ability to review our information, book our meetings, reserve a meeting room, etc., just like we can do in Outlook. I'll go ahead and book a meeting room within our space, and I'll ask for a date of availability that's a little more open. You'll see here in this bar, let me just expand this a little bit. You'll see here in this bar that Billy's free busy availability is being updated just like it would be on the Outlook calendar. So I can see when I'm busy and when I'm free. And if I invite somebody, say Logan, we do search the global address list and we would provide free busy availability on that as well. Again, I'm going to choose a date that's open for both of us. We'll see here that from 3:30 to 4:30 Central Time, we can look for some additional rooms or availability. I'm going to choose that Pikes Peak location again because that is one of our exchange enabled rooms. I can see that on our floor plan here, one of the additional features of the web application, and I'll go ahead and reserve that. 2 people will be joining us for this meeting, and I can go ahead and add that to my reservation. The next step, of course, is to provide some details that would be done normally in Outlook as the subject and the body of the message. So I'll go ahead and call this test meeting number 2. It'll be a meeting with my team, etc. If I want to mark it private, if I want a reminder, busy for your tentative, this is just a test. Now, in this particular area as well, we can inject the @meet here manually, deliberately, meaning EMS can inject that information automatically, or as I mentioned before, we can also select that information or provide that information in the location bar as well. In this event, or this case, I did not include that. However, that is a capability. This would be the primary method of integration for the web-based application, would be to inject that @WebEx or @meeting, because that information would then be provided here in the location area that would present that to the listener service in WebEx. Now, this particular meeting has been created on April 20th here. So if I go back and look at my calendar for the 20th, you will see now in here that this meeting has been provided and created in Outlook as if I had done it just like in the Outlook itself. I do also have access from this point to manipulate that meeting and use it the way I need to. Now, the @meet or the @WebEx feature, which is not available in my trial, is what would inject the WebEx meeting here. So when I open this, you will not see the WebEx information in here yet because the listener hasn't caught this particular item. However, you will note that EMS did invite the equipment for that room. And if I look at the room manager, under my area here, I do get to see that I did successfully reserve that space. So there are a number of ways that you can actually provide functionality with a discrete integration between the services without causing additional work for your users. And that really speaks to the integration with Exchange and video conferencing in the way that we use it within the system. If there were any questions on this, you certainly can reach out to respond to the invite here with any questions you might have. And I hope you enjoyed our little demonstration today. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.